There is a fundamental difference between trying to be noticed and being impossible to ignore. Most people live in a state of performance. They believe that to gain respect, they need to fill every second with words, with gestures, with a performative energy that, in reality, signals only one thing: the desperate search for validation. They feel invisible in conversations and groups, and their instinctive solution is to make more noise. But true authority operates under a different code. Silent, calibrated code that does not seek approval because it does not need it. A code that understands that real power is not given, it is assumed. This is not just another video about how to be confident. This is a tactical manual on what we call the Harvey Specter effect. The ability to command respect through substance and strategy, not forced likability. In the next few minutes, we will decode the 4 psychological and behavioral pillars that allow figures like him to control any environment. We will analyze the mindset, the body language, the information strategy, and most importantly, the shielding against verbal attacks. Stay until the end, because the 4th pillar is the most critical of all. Frame control. The technique that prevents you from ever being put on the defensive, ensuring that you, and not others, define the reality of any interaction. Let us move to the 1st pillar, the foundation of the entire system. It is the most counterintuitive because it requires you to unlearn one of the most taught social rules, that you need to be liked to be respected. Pillar 1, the power paradox. Why real authority does not need validation. Analyze the following situation. You are in a negotiation, a debate, or simply trying to make your point. What is your instinct? For most, the instinct is to seek common ground, to smile, to agree. In other words, to build rapport so that the other person likes you and consequently accepts your idea. You operate under the belief that likability is the currency of influence. This is the exact source of your frustration. It is the trap of the nice guy who is always passed over. The behavior of trying to please in order to be respected not only fails, but paradoxically generates the opposite effect. It communicates neediness, and neediness is the antonym of power. The source of self-confidence in a figure like Harvey Specter does not emanate from the approval of others, but from an internal certainty. That is non-negotiable. He understands the power paradox. The less you need someone's validation, the more that person feels compelled to offer it in the form of respect. This leads us to the psychological concept that underpins all of this: the locus of control. Most people operate with an external locus of control. They believe that their value, their success, and the respect they receive are determined by external forces. The boss's opinion, a group's validation, a woman's approval. Their emotional compass points outward. They are reactive. The Specter effect is built upon an internal locus of control, the fundamental belief that you are the primary force that dictates your outcomes. The environment does not act upon you. You act upon the environment. The opinion of others is not a piece of data that defines your strategy. It is just noise in the system, which may or may not be useful. When your locus of control is internal, you free yourself from the need to seek external signs of approval. You do not enter a room wondering, do they like me? You enter with the certainty of your value and your objective. The desire to control the perception that others have of you is satisfied not by trying to manipulate their opinion, but by becoming indifferent to it. This calibrated indifference is magnetic. It projects a self-sufficiency that forces others to reevaluate their own status in relation to yours. They begin to seek your validation. When you anchor your mindset here, the change begins. You stop reacting and start acting. You stop asking for respect and start commanding it silently. With the mindset realigned, the next step is to ensure that your body communicates this same unshakable certainty. Because it is here that most people, even with the right intention, leak status and betray their insecurity. With the mindset anchored internally, the next step is the calibration of your physical instrument. It is here that most people, even with the right intention, leak status and betray their insecurity through signals they do not even know they are emitting. Pillar 2. The economy of movement, the science behind high-status body language. Observe yourself in a pressure situation. The anxiety, of not knowing what to do with your hands, the bouncing leg, the quick, short gestures that try to keep up with the speed of your thoughts, the constant head nodding to signal that you are listening. Each of these movements is a status leak. They are remnants of a brain programmed to react to threats. Rapid movements signal anxiety, the need to escape, a mind that is not in control of the environment, but rather reacting to it. In contrast, authority manifests through the economy of movement. Think of an apex predator. Its movements are deliberate, calm, and economical. There is no wasted energy. This signals to the brain of everyone in the room that you are not under threat, that you are the control in the environment. This is the law of least effort, applied to nonverbal communication. The desire to project effortless calm and power is achieved not by adding gestures of power, but by subtracting gestures of weakness. 3 components are fundamental. The first is postural stillness, the ability to remain still in a relaxed way, to occupy your space without shrinking. Your hands rest calmly or make slow, intentional gestures that reinforce a point, rather than discharging nervousness. This stillness creates a power vacuum, forcing others to fill it, often with information they did not intend to reveal. The second is sustained eye contact. It is not an aggressive stare, but a calm, unwavering focus. While the low-status person constantly looks away, seeking approval or breaking the tension, the high-status person maintains contact. This communicates that your attention is a valuable resource, that you are present and processing, not just reacting. The third, and perhaps the most potent, is the absence of reactive gestures. You do not need to nod your head at every sentence the other person says. You do not need to give a social smile at every attempted joke. This lack of immediate reaction creates a deliberate pause, a pause that forces the interlocutor to wonder, did he agree? What is he thinking? This small uncertainty transfers control of the interaction to you. Once your physical presence establishes authority before you even speak, your words no longer need to fight for space. They become surgical instruments of precision. And it is here that we enter verbal strategy, where the goal is no longer to persuade, but to control the flow of information. With your physical presence establishing authority, your words no longer need to fight for space. They become surgical instruments of precision. And it is here that we enter verbal strategy, where the goal is no longer to persuade, but to control the flow of information. Pillar 3. The broken mirror tactic. How information control replaces persuasion. Consider the scenario of a debate or a discussion. The natural impulse is to defend your point of view with an overwhelming volume of logic and facts. You feel the need to justify every angle of your position, to win the argument. This is the strategy of someone in a position of lesser power. It is an effort that signals that you need the acceptance of your idea. The real desire is to win the argument without needing to sell your own idea, making the other side convince themselves. This is achieved not through persuasion, but through strategic control of information. Figures like Harvey Specter rarely deliver all the information at once. They offer fragments and use calibrated questions that force others to fill in the gaps, often with their own weaknesses and assumptions. The technique for this is what we call the broken mirror. Most people know the mirroring technique to create rapport, where you reflect the other person's body language or words to create a connection. The broken mirror technique is a strategic subversion of this. Instead of reflecting the entire sentence to validate the interlocutor, you isolate and reflect only a broken fragment of the information, forcing them to strive to complete the picture. Imagine someone says, "We need to close this deal quickly, otherwise we are going to lose the opportunity." The standard, low-status response would be to justify yourself. "Yes, but we need to analyze the details." Or to agree hastily, "Okay, let us speed up." The broken mirror response is a deliberate pause, followed by a calm single-word question that echoes the weakest part of their statement. Quickly? This single word, spoken in a neutral and questioning tone, transfers the entire burden of justification back to them. They now need to explain the reason for the rush. They need to reveal their leverage, their fear, their urgency. You have revealed nothing of your position, but you have gained full access to theirs. This works because it exploits the human need for logical coherence. By breaking the mirror of communication, you create a vacuum that they feel compelled to fill. You put them to work, to justify themselves, while you just observe and collect data. Controlling the flow of information this way is a powerful offensive tactic, but what happens when the attack is directed at you? How do you maintain control when someone actively tries to break your frame and put you on the defensive? This is where the final shield of this system comes in. Controlling the flow of information is a powerful offensive tactic, but what happens when the attack is directed at you? How do you maintain control when someone actively tries to break your frame and put you on the defensive? This is where the final shield of this system comes in. Pillar 4. Frame control. The secret to never being put on the defensive. Every social interaction operates within a frame of reference. It is the underlying context of the conversation. Who asks the questions? Who justifies themselves? Is the subject your mistake or your accuser's motivation? Whoever controls the frame controls the dynamic. The feeling of powerlessness when being interrupted, challenged, or placed in a reactive position comes from losing control of the frame. The instinctive desire is to maintain your own narrative and authority, even when confronted. Most people believe that, when verbally attacked, they need to defend themselves. If someone accuses you of a mistake, your instinct screams, "I did not do that," or "let me explain." The moment you do that, you have lost. By defending yourself, you validate the premise of the attack. You accept your accuser's frame, and now the conversation is about your guilt or innocence. You are playing on their board. Harvey Specter's expectation break strategy is to never enter the opponent's frame. It is to ignore the attack and impose your own. Let us analyze the mechanism. In one scene, Specter is directly accused of a failure. The expected reaction, the bait, would be denial. Instead, he pauses, maintains eye contact, and completely ignores the accusation. He responds, "What we should be discussing is why you are so afraid of losing this case." Observe the anatomy of this move. First, he does not react to the bait. He refuses to enter the "Is Harvey guilty" frame. Second, he establishes a new, much more powerful frame. "Why are you so afraid?" He shifts the focus from his supposed failure to the explicit insecurity of his accuser. He does not play defense. He launches a counterattack that redefines the battlefield itself. The conversation is no longer about him. It is about the other's weakness. Total control of the dynamic was assumed, not by winning the argument, but by fundamentally changing what the argument was about. This is the final layer of the Specter effect. It is the ability to remain unshakable under pressure, not by having a thick skin, but by possessing the technique to dismantle the attack before it even lands. With this shielding, the system is complete. A mindset of internal locus of control, a body that communicates calm through economy of movement, a verbal strategy that controls information, and a defense that makes it impossible to put you in a reactive position. Let us recap the code. The Harvey Specter effect is not about imitating a character. It is about internalizing a power operating system. A system composed of 4 interconnected pillars. First, the power paradox. Your validation comes from within. You do not seek respect. You command it by becoming indifferent to external approval, operating from an internal locus of control. Second, the economy of movement. Your body signals certainty, not anxiety. Your movements are deliberate and economical, communicating calm and control before a single word is spoken. Third, the broken mirror tactic. You control the flow of information. Your words force others to justify themselves, while you collect data and maintain your position of power. And fourth, frame control. You define the reality of the conversation. You are never put on the defensive because you refuse to play on your opponent's board, always imposing your own frame of reference. Your mission for the next 48 hours is not to apply all of this at once. It is to choose a single pillar to start testing. Start with the simplest and most impactful, the economy of movement. In your next meeting, important conversation, or social interaction, your sole objective is to reduce your reactive gestures by 50%. Move more slowly. Use postural stillness. Just observe how the dynamic of the environment changes. Observe how others begin to lean in to hear what you have to say. Leave in the comments what the result of this experiment was. Remember, Power is not what you say. It is what you do not need to say. Master the code.